The following video is not made for kids. Viewer discretion is advised. Hello to my subscribers, this is the TFangy coming to you with what will hopefully be a special review, and today we're going to be taking a look at the Transformers Legacy United Deluxe class Armada Wheeljack. So yeah, this is the version of Wheeljack from Transformers Armada, and I've said this with a lot of Transformers action figures that I reviewed, but I'll say it again, this guy has a special place in my heart because Transformers Armada was the first series I ever watched, and so this was the first version of Wheeljack I ever saw. But the reason why Wheeljack holds a special place for me personally is because his original 2002 Deluxe class figure from the Armada line, the original Armada Wheeljack action figure, it holds the title of being the first ever Deluxe class sized Decepticon Transformers action figure I ever added to my Transformers collection. And so, and overall, Wheeljack was only the second Decepticon action figure that I ever bought and added to my Transformers collection. The first was the Transformers Armada Tidal Wave action figure. That was the first ever Decepticon I ever purchased, and so to finally have a modern Chug-style action figure of Wheeljack here, it's pretty special looking. So, yeah, there he is, and for some artwork, there he is in his car mode for the box art. You got him transformed to robot mode. Oh, there you got some artwork of Wheeljack's robot mode. Oh, you got a close-up of his face and his robot mode there on the side. Alright, and it does say on the side of the box he is from the Armada Universe. And for those of you wondering, Wheeljack is not an original mold. He is a retool of the mold that was originally used on Transformers Siege Sideswipe. And with the release of the most recent version of the Siege Sideswipe mold, which is this figure right here, the Transformers Studio Series Target exclusive Devastation Sideswipe action figure, which is a repaint of the Kingdom Earth mode version of Sideswipe with red alerts, or it's a shorter eared head sculpt. The Siege Sideswipe mold, counting all of its colors and retools, has been used, I believe, at least 17 times, if I remember correctly. Armada Wheeljack is one of the more unique looking of them all, but yeah, unfortunately, this mold has been used since the year 2019. It's still being used 6 years later in 2025, and so a lot of Transformers fans and collectors think that it's time for the mold to be ended, but that's the opinions of other fans and collectors. Me personally, I don't care. But the reason why I brought this figure out here is because some quick history about the Transformers Armada version of Wheeljack. He is basically, by all accounts, Generation 1 Sideswipe. Even with his original Armada action figure, the way the figure transforms, where parts of the vehicle mode end up, the hood of the car being his robot mode chest, and the shape of his head sculpt, which the new Legacy United figure is very faithful to. It's all based on Generation 1 Sideswipe, and by all accounts, Armada Wheeljack, putting it bluntly, is Generation 1 Sideswipe I reimagined for the Transformers Armada cartoon series. The reason why he wasn't named Sideswipe is because Hasbro was already planning on using the name Sideswipe to another Transformers character in Armada who was a full-on Autobot who transformed into a blue sports car, and because that name had already been used, Hasbro realized they were going to lose the registered trademark on Generation 1 Wheeljack's name, since there hadn't been a figure of Generation 1 Wheeljack released for a while, and so they figured, slap the name Wheeljack on here, keep the trademark, and they'd be able to hold on to the name a while longer until they had to renew it again for a Generation 1 version of Wheeljack. Actually, yeah, basically Armada Wheeljack is Generation 1 Sideswipe with Wheeljack's name slapped onto him. And so here also, for some size comparisons with Armada Wheeljack and while he's still inside his box, are the Studio Series Devastation Sideswipe and Wheeljack figures. I had no plans on doing individual reviews of these other action figures here, because the Studio Series Devastation versions of Sideswipe and Wheeljack are straight up repaints of the Kingdom / Earthrise versions of Sideswipe and Wheeljack, respectively. The only difference between them is that they're now made out of solid opaque plastic. So for anyone who missed out on the Kingdom Sideswipe action figure, the Studio Series Devastation figure is a second chance at getting it, and it's been And it's been out for last few weeks now. Earthrise Wheeljack was... I'm sorry, not Earthrise Wheeljack. Earthrise Sunstreaker has been re-released for a second time exclusively at Target stores. So for those who want action figures of both Sideswipe and Sunstreaker at the same time, you can get the Studio Series Devastation Sideswipe figure along with the re-release of Earthrise Sunstreaker, and you can have the Autobot Lamborghini Brothers, others right now in 2025 if you want to. And for Wheeljack, one of the reasons I didn't want to do a review of him is because with the exception of his racing stripes and some of the cell shade paint apps on the windows of his alt mode, which the cell shade apps are white, so you can't they're almost hardly invisible since you can't really see them. The cell shaded stripes for the windows on Sideswipe are more visible when he's transformed into his alt mode compared to Wheeljack. So there isn't much of a difference between Studio Series Devastation Wheeljack and Legacy United Wheeljack, which is also made out of solid opaque plastic. But yeah, there's just some size comparisons of Armada Wheeljack with the G1 a figure of the G1 character that he shares his name with, and the G1 character that he's based on. So, this video kind of in a way is a triple review also of Devastation, Sideswipe, and Wheeljack, but Armada Wheeljack's the figure that we'll be focusing on here. So yeah, there's again some artwork of Wheeljack in his robot mode. You got half the poster image for the Legacy United line. I'm celebrating the Transformers 40th anniversary last year in 2024 when Wheeljack was first released. You got product photos here of his robot mode and his alternate mode. He transforms into a predominantly black sports car. It wasn't entirely a true Lamborghini, his original Armada action figure. I do own the original Armada action figure, but like so many of the Armada characters that have been coming out in the Legacy and Generations line, my original Transformers Armada action figures, they're going on 20 plus years that I've owned them now, and last time I transformed some of them, the joints felt a little stiff, like they were getting brittle, and so I'm now afraid to transform my original Transformers Armada action figures, so that's one of the reasons I haven't been doing size comparisons of the original figures with the modern Generations ones, and it's because I'm afraid to transform them. But anyways, yeah, here's Wheeljack in his artwork. I just lost my train of thought. There's product photos of his robot mode, his alt mode. He transforms back and forth in 16 steps. And I believe the only retooled parts Wheeljack has been given to distinguish himself from the Kingdom Earth mode version of Sideswipe is that, looking at the product photo on Autos on the back of Devastation Sideswipe's box, yeah, I believe the only retooled parts Wheeljack has received has been the new hood for his vehicle mode, which is his robot mode chest, and of course the head sculpt. But apart from that, I believe everything else on Wheeljack is the same as it is with Sideswipe. So sculpting-wise, he just has a new head and a new chest, but I do love that they kept the iconic feature of his original Armada design, and that was the thing with Armada Wheeljack, is that almost instantly from the moment he was created, he had a permanent scar of a slash mark across the Autobot logo on his chest. So, spoiler alert for nobody who's ever watched Transformers Armada. At the beginning, Wheeljack was indeed a member of the Autobots, which is why he has an Autobot logo on his chest. But then if you look closely, he's got a tiny Decepticon logo on his chest also below the much larger Autobot one. And that's to show that he used to be an Autobot, but he ended up becoming a Decepticon. So, what happened was, Wheeljack used to be predominantly white, and he ended up being partnered with Hotshot, who was the main Autobot character of Transformers Armada, who Hotshot got a modern action figure in the Legacy Evolution line the year before Wheeljack did in Legacy United. Hotshot and Wheeljack got involved. When they got involved in their first battle, Wheeljack became trapped underneath some rubble. Hotshot went to go get some help, but by the time Hotshot was able to find some Autobots to help him save Wheeljack, the fire was out of control, it was too hot, and when Hotshot tried to go in to save Wheeljack, he ended up passing out, and the Autobots had to save him, but Wheeljack was left inside the fire, and as he lay there, afraid that he might be dead, a Transformer came out of the flames and approached Wheeljack, and it turns out the Transformer that appeared, he told Wheeljack that he would save him, but only if he did what he told him to do, And the Transformer who saved Wheeljack was none other than the leader of the Decepticons himself, Megatron. So yeah, Megatron saved Wheeljack from dying, and in return for saving his life, Wheeljack agreed to become a Decepticon. And that's why he has the smaller Decepticon logo there beneath the larger Autobot one on with the battle scar are on there. There was no explanation given as to how Wheeljack got the battle scar and why he never had it repaired. Aired within the Armada cartoon series, but the point of it is to show that he is a fallen Autobot, a former Autobot turned Decepticon. And so yeah, a real tragic backstory for Wheeljack in Transformers Armada. And when he finally arrived on Earth, he blamed Hotshot for betraying him and leaving him behind in the fire, and he wanted to come out for personal revenge. But shortly before Wheeljack arrived on Earth, Sideswipe, the version of Sideswipe from Transformers Armada, had arrived on Earth. He and Hotshot developed a quick friendship, and working together, Hotshot and Sideswipe were able to neutralize Wheeljack and foil his plot for revenge against Hotshot. And throughout most of the Armada series, whenever Wheeljack and Hotshot would face off against each other, Wheeljack still held his grudge against Hotshot, and so the fighting they had was particularly heated up. And it wasn't until the threat of Unicron arrived that Wheeljack finally was able to set aside his grudges with Hotshot. And he didn't rejoin the Autobot. Wheeljack remained a Decepticon until the end of the Transformers Armada series, but he just basically stopped up to wanting to seek revenge against Hotshot when he realized the threat of Unicron could destroy Cybertron along with the entire Transformers race. So yeah, that's pretty much the history of Armada Wheeljack. Taking a quick look at Devastation Sideswipe and Devastation Wheeljack. So here they are from the Devastation video. They're from this Devastation video games. Again, straight up repaint of Earthrise Wheeljack, or since he's made of opaque plastic, Studio Series Devastation Wheeljack is more a repaint of the Legacy United Wheeljack that was released in the Autobot Stand 5-pack in the Generation Selects line. And so, in the style of the Target exclusive Studio Series More Than Meets the Eye collection, the artwork is just black and white with red highlights. So there you got Wheeljack in his robot mode and his alt mode, a close-up of his face. Then the product photos on the back of the box. He transforms back and forth in 18 steps. Sideswipe, same thing. More Than Meets the Eye collection, Studio Series artwork of mostly black and white with red highlights. It's close-up of his face sculpt. And oddly enough, Sideswipe, even though in his official product photo it shows him having the same longer-eared head sculpt that he had in the Transformers Devastation video game and his original, both his Transformers Kingdom and original Transformers Siege action figures had. Devastation Studio Series More Than Meets the Eye collection, Sideswipe, just like the box art on the front of his box, he has the shorter ears that were designed originally for the Siege Red Alert use of this mold. So it's basically he's basically a repaint of He's more repaint of Kingdom Red Alert than any previous release of the Siege Sideswipe mold. So that's a funny thing to note there. Product photos, robot mode, alt mode, transforms back and forth in 16 steps. Same number of steps as Wheeljack, so Hasbro at least acknowledges the fact that this mold, despite retooled parts, transforms in the same number of steps. And since they were released in the Studio Series line, they have once in its bios, Devastation Sideswipe's bio reads, the Sideswipe bravely battles Megatron in an attempt to intercept the takeover of the Proud Star. And then it repeats itself in multiple languages. So I confess I myself have never played the Transformers Devastation video game. But from what I've heard, it's a very popular Transformers game, which is why Hasbro made these action figures based on it for the Studio Series and the Generations line. Wheeljack's bio reads, Wheeljack bravely fights to defeat the Insecticon guards of the Plasma Core. So, going off someone who's never actually played the Transformers Devastation video game, I'm assuming that these bio descriptions of Sideswipe and Wheeljack are the levels of the game when they appear and have prominent roles. Well, so saying those guys off aside, now that we've looked at him in the box, the main figure that this review It was about, let's get Armada Wheeljack out of his box and take a close look at him in his robot mode. Alright, and so here is Legacy United Armada Wheeljack out of his box in his robot mode, and I apologize that my camera blurs when I do a close-up, but that is a pretty fantastic face sculpt. It's very true to Wheeljack's animation model from the Armada cartoon series. And yeah, I'm really thrilled with how he turned out. If I remember correctly, I believe the Siege Sideswipe mold has been used has been done in black plastic only twice now. Before Armada Wheeljack, the only black version of the mold was the Generation Selects X deep version of Deep Cover, which was I believe more of a straight up repaint of the Siege version of Sideswipe. I'm sorry, I was wrong. It was used 3 times. In addition to Deep Cover, there was the G2 version of Sideswipe, which recently got a re-release at Amazon. And so this is the 3rd use of the Siege Sideswipe mold done in black plastic. But yeah, I'm really thrilled with how Wheeljack turned out. One thing I wish they hadn't have done is just like most versions of the mold, Wheeljack's pelvis is actually black plastic. It's just been done over in white. The only parts of him that are white are his thighs and lower arms, and of course the elbow joints with the bicep, and the interior there on the chest. That's all white plastic. Same thing with Wheeljack's head. It's white plastic as well. The parts on him that are black and gold are paint. Same with his eyes. And because Wheeljack originally was an Autobot, his eyes are actually blue instead of Decepticon red, just to show that he used to be an Autobot, but he's now a Decepticon, as evidenced by his newer Decepticon symbol being undamaged and the Autobot one still being damaged. But yeah, pretty neat there. One thing I wish they would have done is put another Decepticon logo on him versus the one he just has on his chest. The original Armada Wheeljack action figure had 2 Decepticon logos sculpted on it. There was the tiny one here on the hood of his car mode, but then the arms on the original Armada Wheeljack action figure, they didn't have any 5mm peg holes on the sides of him. There was solid plastic, so there used to be a Decepticon logo on his, I believe it was his right side arm. It ended up hanging upside down because when you transformed Wheeljack into out of his alternate mode of a black sports car into a robot, there was a Decepticon logo there on his arm to show anyone who had doubts as to whether or not he was an Autobot or a Decepticon. The second Decepticon logo on his arm was there to show that he was indeed a villainous Decepticon. And so, even though in Transformers Armada, Starscream was the character who did actually change which side of the battlefield he fought on for a couple of episodes. Starscream, even though he was the one who actually was shown doing it, Armada Wheeljack is one of the poster characters who's been on both sides of the battlefield, where he's been an Autobot and a Decepticon. And because he was a character that I was exposed to early on when I was first introduced to the Transformers franchise, that made me realize that there's potential for Transformers characters to change sides. In Starscream's case, he became more heroic, and for Wheeljack, it was the opposite. He became more villainous. But yeah, I'm just really thrilled with how accurate he is to his original action figure with the head sculpt and that new chest. And just like the original figure, the slash mark was this shape, and it was facing that direction. Action there, and I love how the slash mark, it doesn't completely do it, but it cuts out, the way it slashes down. The eyes on the Autobot logo have been damaged, one's gone, and the eye that remains is damaged there. So yeah, Wheeljack no longer sees the universe through the eyes of an Autobot. He sees it through the eyes of a Decepticon, on with his tinier Decepticon logo undamaged on there. Here, I kind of wish they would have done a brighter shade of purple, since the Decepticon logo on Wheeljack is so small, and with the sculpting of the arms, there's no room to put another Decepticon logo on him anywhere. There, but yeah, I kind of wish they would have. That's the only minor nitpick I have with Wheeljack, is that the shade of purple paint they used for his Decepticon logo, it's so dark it blends into the black plastic used for him, and so you wouldn't know it was there unless someone pointed it out to you. It's so tiny my camera is having a faint job of distinguishing the Decepticon logo and picking it up. But yeah, really thrilled with how he turned out, and the gold old paint on his hubcaps, that's accurate to his original Armada action figure. One thing that this figure has that the original Armada figure did not is G1 Sideswipe's laser cannon. The only weapons Wheeljack's original Armada action figure had were the two swords that he held in his arms, and the swords actually were a pair of missiles that doubled as almost like nightsticks or club type sword weapons that he would use to slash his enemies with. And so the way Wheeljack's original Armada action figure transformed into, there was, instead of a 5mm port on his back, he had a Minicon port that his Minicon partner came packaged with originally. Just like the Generation 1 Power Masters, to transform Wheeljack from his alt mode, which he was packaged inside the box when you first got it, you had to put the Minicon on top, and then the sides of his vehicle mode would flip up, and he had these giant gull wing doors, or doors of the car that swing upward and open up, attached to the top of the roof. Gull wing doors were very popular during the late 70s and 1980s. And when you did, the gull wing doors had two missiles on them that Wheeljack would fire, and then once you fired the missiles, you'd put them in his hands, and they double as a pair of baton sticks or nightsticks, club weapons that doubled as swords for him to use. So yeah, Wheeljack was one of the more threatening Decepticons in Transformers Armada. The missile swords themselves were originally done in bright yellow plastic, and on the Hasbro version of Wheeljack, he also had yellow stripes on the hood of his vehicle mode. The blue ones done here on his Legacy United figure, that's actually more cartoon accurate to his animation model in Transformers Armada. He had blue stripes on the hood of his vehicle mode instead of yellow ones. Hasbro just decided to give the North American version of Armada Wheeljack more yellow highlights. So I kind of wish they would have done the swords in the same bright yellow that his original Armada figure had, but I can kind of see why they went with the gold, because that technically was also, they went for full-on animation accuracy with Wheeljack's design in the Armada cartoon series rather than his Hasbro-released action figure. So, for those who have the Siege Sideswipe mold, I won't go into the articulation because it's the same thing. Despite his new head sculpt and his new robot mode chest, Wheeljack has the same amounts of articulation as every other version of this mold comes packaged with that's been made. But yeah, last thing I will say is that I love that they didn't have to include G1 Sideswipe shoulder cannon here with Wheeljack. But I'm glad that they did, because it gives Wheeljack an additional weapon, and it makes him even more of a menacing threat than the two sword weapons that he has. Because having only the swords for his weapons in the Armada cartoon show, Wheeljack was more a close combat fighter than a long distance combat fighter, and you didn't really see him fight his enemies from long distance. He fought them close up. So having the shoulder cannon, it now means Wheeljack's a threat not only close up but far away as well. So yeah, I'm really glad that they did that. And for a size comparison, once again, here he is with one of his mold mates and the figure whose design he is based on. Here is Studio Series Devastation Sideswipe. There's some of the shell shade used there on his windshield. And again, this is kind of a triple review, not only of Legacy United Armada Wheeljack, but of the Devastation More Than Meets the Eye versions of Sideswipe and Wheeljack. Actually, yeah, this guy's a straight up repaint of, he's a repaint of the Kingdom Earth mode version of Sideswipe, which Wheeljack is also repainted and retooled from, and he's got the Siege Red Alert head here. So yeah, there's a Devastation Sideswipe done in which is Earth mode Sideswipe done in completely solid plastic. And here's the character that Armada Wheeljack shares his name with, Generation 1 Wheeljack from the Studio Series Devastation video game. I believe this laser gun was used on a previously released Transformers action figure, but I can't remember which one. I should have looked it up before I started recording the review. If you could let me know down in the comment section what laser gun Studio Series Devastation More Than Meets the Eye Collection Wheeljack comes with, I'd greatly appreciate it. And like I said, he does have some of the shell shading stripes on the windows of his alt mode, but because Wheeljack is mostly white, it just looks like paint splotches, or there's paint missing from his windshield instead of it being reflective stripe wiping off the glass. Yes, but on that note, comparing Legacy United Armada Wheeljack with the Devastation solid plastic versions of Sideswipe and Wheeljack, I prefer Transformers action figures that have solid opaque plastic windows versus clear plastic ones, because it does give them a lot more longevity. And one of the reasons why I prefer opaque windows over clear plastic ones, not only for the longevity factor with solid plastic being far sturdier than clear plastic, which is much more brittle than solid plastic. Half of the action figures released in the Transformers Armada line of action figures back in 2002 and 2003, which I started collecting Transformers action figures, the number of Transformers action figures that transformed into cars and vehicles that had windows, such as jets with cockpits and cars with windshields. Half of the original Transformers Armada action figures had opaque plastic windows which just had a layer of paint on them. Wheeljack was one of the figures that had opaque windows instead of clear plastic ones, and I've just always enjoyed the sight of the opaque plastic window colored ones on Transformers action figures, due to the Armada figures having half of them being made out of opaque plastic. It just felt more of a mystery to me, and to me personally it added to the phrase of the Transformers of being more than meets the eye, because having opaque plastic windows, it's a mystery of what it looks like underneath there. And you don't know what the Transformers action figures actually look like underneath, and so it's left up to your own imagination what they look like behind their windows. And so that's why I've always preferred opaque plastic versus clear plastic. But years later, now that I've learned about how brittle clear plastic can get over time, yeah, I give a thumbs down to clear plastic windows. Alright, and so without further delay, let's get Wheeljack transformed into his alt mode and wrap up the review. But before we do, one last special size comparison. Here he is next to the Legacy United solid plastic window version of Sunstreaker. As I said at the start of the review, Sunstreaker, his Earthrise figure that the Legacy United figures a repaint of, was recently re-released at Target stores, and so I'm going to partner him up here with my Devastation Sideswipe figure, even though he doesn't have the cell shade 8 paint apps on his windows. I think that Legacy United Sunstreaker is a good companion figure to go with Studio Series Devastation Sideswipe. And as I said, this review is kind of a review of him and Wheeljack as well, so here they are next to us, Legacy United Sunstreaker. So let's get these guys transformed, armed, and wrap up the review. Alright, and so here is Armada Wheeljack transformed into his alt mode. I did want to have the thing on the back before the shoulder rocket, but I guess it does look better pointing forward. But yeah, here he is in his alt mode. You got the blue stripes from his hood. You got the Decepticons insignia now on the front of his alt mode. And yeah, I just really love that they were able to perfectly mimic the slash mark over his old Autobot logo. That's accurate to his original Armada figure and his appearance in the Armada cartoon series. And yeah, I just really enjoy how Wheeljack turned out. You got silver paint on the exhaust vent for his alt mode. The tail lights and the headlights and the tail lights aren't painted, but that's accurate to his original action figure. The striping on his hood, well, at least it's accurate to his animation model where the headlights weren't pronounced. But yeah, you got the gold paint on the hubcaps, which is accurate to his appearance in Armada. And you got blue stripes on the side, which are hidden by his sword nightstick missiles here. And on the original Armada figure, what you would do is, when you would transform Armada Wheeljack, you'd insert the minicon on the roof of him, and the minicon peg would cause the sides of the vehicle to flip out. Then you'd push a button, and a spring would launch the missiles forward, and so you can mimic the first step in the original Armada Wheeljack's automatic transformation with the minicon gimmick by folding the doors up. And yeah, that's the first step in transforming the original Armada Wheeljack action figure. So it makes perfect sense because he was based off of Generation 1 Sideswipe that Hasbro and Takara Tomy would retool the Siege Sideswipe mold into Armada Wheeljack. But I kind of secretly wish they would have gone the extra mile and just designed an entirely brand new action figure for him. One thing I wish I would have gotten a few years ago when it was still available on Amazon was the Racing Spoiler upgrade kit for the deep cover version of this mold, because Wheeljack originally did have racing spoilers, and they did end up on the shins of his robot mode legs, so I might just have to track down one of the upgrade kits for the black version of the racing spoiler for this mold. Use it here on Armada Wheeljack. But yeah, overall, I just really enjoy how he looks, and I love how they went with solid black here. Side note, the original Hasbro release of Armada Wheeljack, he was done in more of a charcoal gray than actual solid black plastic like the Legacy United figure here utilizes. So I'm kind of glad they went with his animation model and made him a solid black instead of charcoal. And of course, for a size comparison, the other two figures, here's a figure that he's mold mates with, Studio Series Devastation Sideswipe, Devastation Wheeljack, who he's named after. So yeah, if you wanted to, you could have Armada Wheeljack face off against Generation 1 Wheeljack, and they could fight over who gets to have the name Wheeljack if you wanted to. And of course, for one last size comparison, here he is next to Legacy United Sunstreaker, just to compare with another Lamborghini Transformer. And of course, here is Sunstreaker next to Devastation Sideswipe. As I said, they re-released Earthrise Sunstreaker recently as an exclusive to Target stores here in the United States. So if you want Devastation Sideswipe and you want to have a Sunstreaker action figure to be a companion to him, you can get the Earthrise Sunstreaker re-release to go with Sideswipe. So yeah, there's a size comparison of all four figures here. So this technically was also a video review of Studio Series Devastation More Than Meets That Collection Sideswipe and Wheeljack. I didn't think that doing individual reviews of them would be something that my subscribers would be interested in. So here's one final look at the figure that this video review focuses on, and it is the Transformers Legacy United Armada Wheeljack action figure. And yeah, he looks fairly decently. And for one last special surprise size comparison, just because I have the figure nearby by coincidence, sorry I didn't do a robot mode comparison of this here, but here is Wheeljack next to his commander, the version of Megatron from Transformers Armada. And yeah, they look really fantastic standing beside each other. This is pretty much how size accurate their original Transformers Armada action figures were compared to each other. And those of you with a keen eye might have noticed, a while back I managed to find a spare copy of Siege Sideswipe's laser gun. And so I decided to put it here on top of Armada Megatron just to mimic his the spot where his minicon partner originally stored. I think it looks kind of neat having another laser gun up there on top of him in tank mode. But yeah, there he is there's Armada Wheeljack next to Armada Megatron. And with Wheeljack's release, we now have 4 of the 9 Decepticons from Transformers Armada having been given modern Chug-style, Generation-style Transformers action figures. The others besides Wheeljack and Megatron for Armada that have been given modern figures are Starscream and Tidal Wave. From the leaked databases of Transformers action figures coming out next year in 2026, we are definitely getting Sideways from Transformers Armada. He's being released at mass retail in the Age of the Primes line. He's up for pre-order right now on Amazon. He's expected to be released sometime in June of next year in 2026, but of course that could be bumped up. But yeah, Sideways will be the 5th 5th of the 9 Decepticons who appeared in Transformers Armada to be given a modern action figure. The only ones we haven't got, this means the ones that we haven't gotten action figures of yet are Thrust, Demolisher, Cyclonus, and I believe actually that might be it. Let me see. 4, let's see, Megatron, Starscream, Wheeljack, and Tidal Wave are 4. Or Sideways will be 5. Where'd I get 9 Decepticons from? Give me a moment. Okay, I was wrong. There were only 8 Decepticons who appeared in Transformers Armada. There were 9 Autobots who appeared in Armada as well. But yeah, there were only 8 Decepticons who appeared in Transformers Armada. So once Sideways gets released next year in 2026, we'll have 5 of the 8 Decepticons from Armada having been given Chuck-style Transformers action figures. The only ones we still need are Thrust, Demolisher, and Cyclonus. And part of the reason why we haven't gotten action figures of those 3 Armada Decepticons yet is because, just like Megatron on here, and unlike Wheeljack, Demolisher, Cyclonus, and Thrust from Armada they each have designs that haven't really been shared with other Transformers characters, not even Generation 1 Transformers characters, and so, just like Megatron, Starscream, Red Alert, Hotshot, and Optimus Prime, Hasbro and Takara told me if they want to produce decent style Chug action figures of Cyclonus, Demolisher, and Thrust from Transformers Armada, they're going to have to go the extra mile and make them brand new molds instead of retooling an existing mold for them. Now that I've named them all off the characters from Transformers Armada that have been given modern Chug-style action figures, Wheeljack is the only one so far that's been repaint and a retool as far as I'm aware of, and not an original mold. His fellow Armada Decepticons, Megatron, Starscream, and Tidal Wave, they're all original molds that aren't repaints or retools of previously released Transformers action figures. Same thing with Optimus Prime, Hotshot, and Red Alert. But yeah, with the release of Wheeljack and Legacy United, the number of Decepticons from Transformers Armada, even though the Autobots outnumbered the Decepticons in the Transformers Armada series, more of the Decepticons have been given modern Chug-style action figures than the Autobots from Transformers Armada. And some avid G1 fans pointed out that for Generation 1 Transformers characters, we've gotten more G1 Decepticons than we have Autobots in recent years. So we've gotten action figures of the Double Target Masters, the Headmaster Juniors, the Pretender, the Double Target Masters, the Triggercons is who I was trying to name when I named the Double Target Masters twice. Yeah, we got the Triggercons as well, so we've gotten a lot more of the Generation 1 gimmicky Decepticons who had gimmicks back in the Generation 1 line, and more Decepticons from Transformers Armada than we have Autobots. We've only gotten 3 Autobots from Transformers Armada who've been given modern action figures. We got Optimus Prime, Hotshot, and Red Alert, who I'm pointing to back up here. I still have to review him. And I just remembered why a moment ago in the review I thought there were 9 Decepticons in Transformers Armada. The 9th Decepticon was Nemesis Prime. And technically Nemesis Prime, a couple months ago, he did get a action figure, which, just like Wheeljack, Nemesis Prime got an action figure that was a repaint of the Legacy Evolution Commander Class Armada Optimus Prime action figure, though instead of the trailer he came with modern action figures of the Minicons. Nemesis Prime I haven't gotten a hold of yet because he was released as a Hasbro Pulse exclusive here in the United States, which means he hasn't shown up on Amazon, or most websites that sell Transformers action figures. So if he does appear on Amazon, I might get it, Nemesis Prime eventually, someday. But for now, the point I'm trying to make is that we've gotten a lot more Decepticons under the Generations line than we have been getting Autobots and the reason why I myself personally don't know, but I think it's just to let younger Transformers fans and collectors know that the main cast of Autobots, such as Optimus Prime, Bumblebee, Grimlock, Elita 1, RC, those are the main heroic Autobots, and if they tried to do the more obscure or less well-known Autobot Transformers characters, or Autobot characters that are just different iterations of characters that share the same name as Generation 1 characters, such as Red Alert back there. Yeah, I think that's one reason why we haven't gotten as many Autobots as we've gotten Decepticons. But please let me know down in the comment section what your thoughts are on it, and just to answer the final proverbial question in my review one last time, do I recommend getting the Transformers Legacy United Deluxe class, Armada Universe, Decepticon Wheeljack, and adding him to your Transformers collection? I absolutely do. Even if you haven't watched Transformers Armada, as an individual Transformers character, Decepticon Wheeljack, he remains one of my all-time favorite characters from Transformers Armada. As I said, he has a special place in my heart because he is the first ever, his original Armada action figure was the first ever deluxe class size Decepticon figure that I added to my Transformers collection, and black has always been my favorite color, so the idea of a former heroic Autobot transforming into an evil Decepticon that has a black sports car for an alt mode, I gave a thumbs up to all of Armada Wheeljack's features, and his new Chug style action figure, despite being a repaint and retool of the mold that was originally used on Siege Sideswipe, I just love his new Chug style action figure here. And as I said, he's basically a mashup of Generation 1 Sideswipe and Generation 1 Wheeljack. He shares Wheeljack's name, but he shares G1 Sideswipe's transformation and body design, and for lack of better grammar. So yeah, I highly recommend getting this figure if you can find him still. I believe Armada Wheeljack was among the Legacy United Deluxe Class Transformers action figures that appeared in Christmas bundles, in which 2 deluxe figures from the Legacy United line were taped together and sold at Walmart store orders for the Christmas shopping season for 2025. So he is still available to be found out in decent numbers. So I highly recommend getting him, especially if you've been collecting the Transformers Armada characters from the Legacy Trilogy and now Age of the Primes. Wheeljack looks great standing next to Megatron here, and I really hope we get Chug-style action figures of Cyclonus, Thrust, and Demolisher to complete the Decepticons from Transformers Armada. As I said, Armada Sideways is coming next year in 2026, and yeah, I really can't wait for the day to finally come when we have Chug-style action figures of all the Decepticons from Transformers Armada. So thank you guys all once again. This has been the TFN Geek. This has been my review of Transformers Legacy United Deluxe Class Armada Wheeljack. I apologize for the review going on much longer than I wanted it to, but there is a lot to say about Armada Wheeljack when you know who he is as a Transformers character and the history about him and everything that he did for the Transformers franchise when he was in the spotlight during the run of Transformers Armada from 2002 to 2004. So thank you guys all so much, and once again, please remember to comment, like, share, and subscribe. And until next time, you guys, this has been the TFN. Thank you to all my friends and subscribers for your continued support. Please remember to stay safe, stay healthy, and until next time, you guys, transform and roll out. Goodbye, everyone.